Home Building and Remodeling Show. Let's go! Welcome everybody to the Home Building and Remodeling Show. My name is Chris Kirby and I'll be your host. I am the owner of 3 construction companies on the Alabama Gulf Coast. The show is about residential construction. We're going to cover topics of home building and remodeling. Are you thinking of doing a remodel or building a home? Are you a contractor looking to improve your knowledge base or grow your business? Have you ever done a remodel project or built a home? There were so many things you wish you knew or that you could have done differently during the process. Then this show is for you. We break down the process of building and remodeling and how to have the best results during your project. Whether you're a DIYer looking for tips, someone looking to hire a contractor to do a project, or a contractor looking to expand your knowledge base or your business. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you. Stay tuned. We kick off the show with my thoughts on home building and remodeling. I'll share best practices and talk about some of our experiences in business and out in the field. These shared thoughts and lessons learned are meant to help you on your very own journey. Let's go. So today we're going to continue on our journey of trying to improve the outlook of remodeling and home building in the construction industry. Again, we're beating that drum. We want to change the narrative. So the only way to do that is to continue to educate and create knowledge for consumers and people who are out there watching this or interested in this. And one of the things we've continued to discuss is the fact that construction can be a career. It can be a profession. There are a lot of highly paid construction jobs. So you don't have to look at it as if it's an alternative to another career, or you couldn't get another job or go into another field. So you chose this as your second option. Although that's okay, that's fine, but we want to make it your primary choice. And the only way to do that is to start with the education of what construction is, what remodeling is, what home building is, and then from there continue to talk about things that we do as a company, right? There's a difference. There are companies, remodeling companies, home building companies, and we are a smaller custom home builder. And I would say we're a mid-size remodeling company. We have 27 people now. And so there is a difference between your production builders, your smaller to mid-size construction companies, and then your individual contractors and individual tradesmen. And so we need all of those. And our company is for the people who want to come in and learn to be master remodelers or want to come in and learn to be home builders. That's the type of people we bring in, and that's the type of apprentices we bring in. So we started the apprenticeship program, which I talked about on our podcast, the Home Building and Remodeling Show. Go check it out if you haven't listened to it. But today, I just want to further give best practices that have helped us, because we have learned so much through our journey. And if you don't know, the reason that I chose to build the companies, multiple companies, the way that I did was because of my background. I'm a retired Navy veteran. I did 20 years, and I loved the camaraderie that the military provided, the discipline, and it gave me a shot at life that I wouldn't have had I not done that. And so I want to provide that same opportunity in my companies. I did that. The reason it's construction is because my family had a background in it. And so when I came into the industry, I realized that there was a lack of information. There was a lack of formal education being pushed. There was a lack of training that was conducted on the job. It was kind of just show up and start working and learn that way, which is one strategy of multiple that you need to adopt as a company to be able to be successful and have your people and your personnel be successful. The other thing we've been trying to do and learn and grow is become more diverse. We want to make sure we're bringing in males, females, all races, all that stuff. And it has paid dividends because the cultural differences really actually help it's helped us to be able to move forward with our company and our initiative. So anyway, so today I want to talk specifically about some of the best practices that have helped us. And again, this isn't all inclusive and this isn't the only pathway to success, but it helped us, and I just want to help as many people in the home building and remodeling industry as possible. And that's the entire mission of the Home Building and Remodeling Show, is because I'm trying to create things that I lacked in our first 7 years, that had I been able to see what I'm doing, if I would have been able to watch this and see these things and listen to the podcast and get the guides that I've created to share with you all and have shared experiences, rather than everybody seems to compete and then you don't share knowledge because you're really trying to make sure they don't actually get all the knowledge. So your competitors are then getting knowledge that you have that helps you run your business. And so we need to kind of change that. I've seen it work, and I want to make sure that I'm doing the best I can to give you all the information I have that has helped us. And by doing so, we continue to evolve, innovate, change the face of the industry, and again, stop the construction is a dirty job. Construction is a second choice. It's an alternative. Let's get out of that mindset and let's show them what actually goes on and happens in the home building and remodeling industry and construction industry. So for me today, I want to talk about hiring best practices. So one of the things that early on we had to hire whoever we really could. We tried our best to screen people, but we weren't able to just, not hire people. We needed help because as we grew, the need for work, and if I wanted to keep the company growing with the mindset I just talked about, I had to hire help, and it wasn't always the best help, and I had a gut feeling. So my first tip to you in hiring would be go with your gut. When you sit down with somebody, you're going to have an initial impression of that person, and anybody that walks into the door is going to be able to sell you on themselves. But you can usually gauge or read them if they're speaking the right language. And sometimes even that doesn't sound like they know what they're doing. Then they get out into the field, and in fact, they really don't. We've run into that a lot, where they've hyped themselves up a little more than what they can actually do. And quite honestly, we don't always just fire them. We just let them know, listen, your skill set isn't as strong as you said it was, and so we're going to retain you. However, we thought you were going to be a crew lead. Well, you're not. You're actually right in the middle between an apprentice and a crew lead. So we're gonna put you with a crew lead, and then continue to help you develop in your remodeling and home building skill. So that's kind of how we've done it. But these days, and that goes back to go with your gut. You're going to get a sense, you're going to get a feeling when you're talking to them. And I would say 99 out of 100 times, my gut on this thing has been right. And again, it's part of those lessons learned. So go with your gut. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. If they feel too salesman-y, they probably are selling themselves a little bit. So, and that's okay. Again, evaluate and then put them where you need them. Don't always just cut them loose. Your gut feeling is usually the right way. Number 2 would be hire for culture. Okay. I know that is not always easy in the beginning because, again, like I said, you need help. And when you become known a little bit more in the community, people are going to hire you or want to hire you. And you're going to want to steadily increase the scope of work that you can take on. And in order to do that, you are going to need help, right? Finding help is hard in our industry. So sometimes you're going to hire somebody that you, in normal circumstances, or once you get going, you normally wouldn't. Sometimes that pans out. Sometimes it doesn't. However, when I look at a person and talk to them and listen to, or I watch their body language and listen to how they speak, I hire where people demonstrate the proper care and concern, not only just for skill, but I want to know that they are going to get along well with others, that I'm going to be able to trust them out in the field in our client's home. I hire for culture. Good vibes matter. So they've got to be able to get along with everybody, and they have to be able to be trustworthy, be honest. And sometimes, again, you can't always tell in the beginning how somebody is. So you take a chance, but again, you go with your gut. But hire for culture. Listen, we can spend some time training people in the beginning, a little bit harder, but as you grow, you'll have a little more time, hopefully a little more help, a little more skill out in the field, and you spend your time helping develop people. Half the battle in our industry is getting people to show up daily and on time and ready for work. And so if you find somebody that will show up on time daily and ready for work, that is the most stressful part. You've got that licked. Good. I can train you and work with you if you're willing to learn. So hire for culture, make sure they're a good fit first, then look at their skill set. That's just my opinion. So the third thing would be do an actual self-evaluation on them. We actually made a form that covers the critical skills necessary in remodeling to be successful, such as trim carpentry, rough carpentry, tile installation, drywall patch and repair, paint. So those items, in addition to a few others, are on this form that we have listed. It's simple as 1, 2, 3. 1 being not very good at it, 2 being proficient, and then 3 being good. I kept it simple because, again, you just want to get that initial self-evaluation from them to allow them to tell you, not just verbally, but put it on paper, let them assess themselves, and hopefully they're truthful in that assessment, and you can see, okay, this is where they're going to fit in based on what they already know, not just what they're telling me, but what's on this paper. And then it gives you also something to hold to when you're talking to them and they're like, well, I don't remember telling you I was good at trim carpentry. Well, you did a self-assessment. Again, it's just a quick form for them to fill out and provides an initial starting point on their skill set, and so you can place them where you need them. And now we move into Shop Talk. It's the portion of the show where I bring in a co-host and we cover trending topics in home building and remodeling. Hope you enjoy. Let's go. So today we're going to talk about finding your niche and then also staying within that niche once you find it. One of the things we learned in the beginning was it's very difficult to take on all jobs in remodeling, and it's easy to take that job because you need the money coming in or something like that. So right. You're going to take that job on, but that may not be your strong suit. However, you're trying to get your name out there. You want people to know who you are. And so you take the job and then you don't do it to how it should be done.
Expectations.
Yeah. And so part of, what I wanted to bring you in to talk about today is finding that niche. But like for us, we do kitchen and bath, right, and we stick to mainly interior remodeling. What's your thoughts on finding your niche and, sticking to it? Do you believe in that? I mean,
once you're like going through your apprenticeship, you kind of always find something you enjoy doing more than other stuff. And,
yeah.
That's usually what you need to stick to. If you enjoy it, you got to do it.
So you have some passion. You're coming in and doing something that you enjoy, right? That's kind of what you were talking about. Yeah. But too, the flip side to that is for you to really, you've heard the term, what is it? Jack of all trades, master of none, right? Which means like for us, we really care about the outcome of our work. And so we try to stick to kitchen and bath. And sometimes people know you. We're locals. We both grew up here. And, they're like, well, come on, we know each other. Don't you think you can do, for instance, for us, would you come and do siding? I need a contractor to do siding. I'll pay you for it. Why can't you do that for me? Right. So if you get a friend that calls and we're focused on kitchen and baths, but they want you to do siding, how does that kind of look?
If it's outside of our bread and butter, I would prefer to give them a referral,
Right.
Somebody that I would trust to do it for them, because, I'm not going to send our guys that are tile and, flooring and cabinet guys to go do some siding when it's not something they do regularly.
Now, what if it's a client and they're like, listen, I know your company. I know your company's good. I've seen pictures of your work. I'm willing to pay more for you to come do siding. What would you do it? That's not your strong suit.
Not do it myself, but get it subbed out.
Yeah. There's a difference too, right? Because going to look at it and then using a subcontractor. Now that's completely different. And we do that type of stuff all the time. Yeah. But like having our guys and girls go in and do something like that, we're really kind of setting them up for failure because you talk to the team and the teams, they're like, sure, we can do that. We can try to make that work. But that's not really the mentality that you want when you're trying to master something or you want real quality work done.
Right.
Or there's going to be mistakes made because they're living in kitchen and bathrooms all day, every day. And now we've got them doing exterior siding or something. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It would definitely throw them for a loop a little bit. You know what I mean? They would have to kind of
figure out what they're doing.
Relearn it.
Yeah.
I guess you would say.
So the process,
so long.
Right. The process is going to be a little bit slower, right? So when you find your niche, when you find what you're good at, then you start becoming better, more efficient. And not only does your quality improve, but your efficiency does. So the progress, it seems to speed up a little bit because you know what you need. You start knowing what materials you need. You start knowing how the workflow is supposed to go. And so if you kind of stick to that, when you're, from the estimator's perspective, it's a little bit easier to estimate the same type of job over and over too, right?
Yes.
So you can build.
So if a standard bathroom, it's super easy to build the estimate to because I've done so many.
You've done it over and over and over. And so same thing for like kitchens for us. We've done it over and over and over. And most of the interior remodeling, we've done over and over. And so you start to get better and better too, not only at the workflow, the process, but budgeting, right? Exactly. You know what you can and can't do to make your money go a little bit further if you stick to what you're good at. Right. And the money part of it, like if you're getting slow, here sometimes during the winter, but since we're on the Gulf Coast, there's a lot of condos and a lot of vacationers. So there's always work to be done here as a contractor. But if it gets a little slow, you really might think about going outside of what you would normally do because the paychecks are getting a little slower and you got people to pay and things like that. But it seems that's where you get yourself in some hot water is doing something that you're not really good at just because you're a contractor, right?
Doesn't mean you should be doing finishing sheetrock.
That's right. Yeah, no, right. And people say, well, contractor, don't they do, pretty much everything? No, there are trade contractors that are good at painting, and that painter probably doesn't need to be doing your electrical work.
Right.
Or that painter probably doesn't need to be doing your tile. You do get better when you are a painter and you paint all the time. Or if you do tile and that's what you stick to.
Yeah. That's all you do is tile.
Yes.
And
there's a difference. Like, even for us, when we're looking at subcontractors and we're looking at people that we want to work with or have work for us or work for our clients, we know. I mean, I hate to say it, but we do kind of have a rank, like who's our go-to, who's our first electrician, who's our first plumber, because that it's quality. They're going to be in line. Basically their numbers. Where they're going to come in at with their bid. And so when again back to the estimating side to this, you kind of can tell what our plumber's going to charge to do a drain move in a bathroom. Well, when you start venturing outside and you want to build a deck, you got to kind of reinvent the wheel. Right. And even money, money's tight, but now you're spending more time on the estimate trying to figure out what you need to do it. And you could be licensed to do it, but that doesn't mean that it's always a good idea.
Right.
Right. What would you say to somebody that, because we see it, right? We all know that contractor that's getting started and all of a sudden they're just got their hands in every pot.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I got a guy.
yeah, I got a guy. Or they will
My
try
guy.
to. Yep.
My guy can do that. My
Yes.
guy can do this.
Yeah. And it gets you in hot water. So, you know, for us, I think the message this week is find your niche, stick to it because you're good at it and your quality is going to improve. The money is going to improve. And the big thing, like for us, was now you become known for that, right? There are companies that, for us, I would say around here, we're known as the go-to for kitchen and bath.
Right.
And that's what we wanted to do. And so the more kitchen and bathrooms that we do, the more we become known, the more pictures you have to post, all of that stuff. And then you're getting more calls just for that, and you can perfect that. It's all about, you know, becoming known for a certain type of contracting, being the go-to for that, and then making sure that you're not getting yourself in a situation where you can end up doing a bad job, you know, and not meeting the client's
in the long
expectations.
run, it's going to cost you more money because then you got to actually pay somebody to come fix the stuff that you can't get right.
Yep, I agree. So our message this week, again, find your niche, pick your niche, stay in your niche. And once you find it, keep it, and don't venture too far outside of it unless you're growing. So in a growing business, you know, if you hire on a couple of people that can do a deck or can do siding, and you want to go down and start taking those siding jobs because that's their background, that's a different story.
Right.
But for the most part, if you've got a bunch of interior remodelers, keep them on interior remodeling. Yep. Awesome. You have recently been promoted. You were doing the estimates. Now you're doing project management. So here we've got a few project managers that work with us. Some of them run houses. You, for the most part, are running 5 crews in kitchen and bath and interior remodeling. Can you speak on some perspective about being a project manager?
It's a lot different than it looks from the outside, for sure.
So what was your day like today, coming in being the project manager on Monday?
Well, it was kind of crazy right off the get-go. Everybody trying to figure out what they needed to start for the week. And then, I don't know, the phone calls just never stopped all day long.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing. Most people want those promotions and understand. I mean, you had this conversation, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But, you know, most people want these promotions and they become the project manager. And we've had a few, but before you, it was really, you know, Mark or my dad or, you know, somebody close, because it will burn you out quick. And so what we tried to do is make sure that you can solely focus on the project management side. Day to day, you are making sure that our crew leaders have what they need, and you're the buffer between our company and the client. Right. And so you were speaking about the phone calls earlier, and a lot of what you're doing is really checking on jobs. And if there's an issue that comes up, you know, the estimator has a vision when they send over that estimate. When the client accepts, the client has their own vision, right? And sometimes those things don't align. Right. And so where you come in is you make sure to kind of help them understand our perspective, right, and then meet their goals, right?
Exactly.
And so what happens when something like that, you know, you can't meet the client's expectations, or the client's calling because, you know, the estimator came out and did an estimate and it's not going the way, and we've had that happen. It's not going the way they thought.
Right. I mean, you just got to kind of, you know, have the situation as best as possible with them. And, you know, not everybody's going to be happy, but you got to do your best to try to put out the fire, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Make everything work. You know? Yeah,
absolutely. And sometimes that gets tough, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just depends, really. You know what I mean? Because, I mean,
well, they're all people.
About 80% of it's going to go okay, but then you got the other 20 that, you know, it's kind of hit or miss.
Yeah.
And then you got the 2%ers that it's just,
you're never going to meet their expectations. No. And no matter what kind of plans and and drawings or whatever you want to have that they signed a contract for, that they see, it still isn't quite hitting the mark. You can't please everybody. And we've had scenarios, and they're few and far between, but it still happens. You learn and grow from these, but you cannot please every client. And so
it'd be awesome if you could, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, if you were 100% 5.0 on the reviews all the time, but it's not realistic. And we have had to walk away from, even when you were doing estimates, right? We've walked away from stuff that seemed a little sketchy or it seemed a little off. Right. And, it falls right in line with the finding your niche, find what you're good at and stick to it. But also you get a gut feeling sometimes.
Yes. You can, by the questions some people ask and the comments they make while you're there on the estimate, you can kind of get a feel for them and know that it's going to be just a difficult situation all the way through the job.
So to any contractor out there that's doing estimates, what would you say, go with your gut?
Yes.
Most of the time
because usually that's the ones that it works out to where it's hard.
Yeah. You gotta kind of go with your gut. And if something seems off, it's probably off. And I think one of the hardest things that we've had to do is come up with ways to tell the client that we can't work with them. Right. It's hard to deliver that message because it's really nothing more than a gut feeling. So it's hard to say, hey, listen, I know I came out and met you, but I can't perform this job. And we've had to kind of figure out how to navigate that conversation, right? Sometimes we'll turn them down and
sit down and kind of figure, because you just don't want to be like,
it's hard. And you know what? And you
don't want to be rude, and it's not personal, you know what I mean? But it's just bad business on both sides if you both go into it, especially as the contractor, knowing that it's not going to work out for you and it's going to cost you more money.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, because I could tell you one thing, the client is interviewing multiple contractors most likely, and they've got their pick of, who they had a good gut feeling or a good conversation with and stuff like that. And if you go against your gut, sometimes, again, you can find yourself in hot water. There's usually a reason you felt like it's probably not a client that I could work with.
Right.
One thing I know you can't do is people say, well, jack up the price, and then, you won't have to worry about it.
No, because that's the ones that always end up accepting your bid if you're going to try to jack it up to run them off.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are, and some, all of a sudden,
that's how they're like, it bites you in the butt every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, you might rethink, well, maybe it is worth it. Then you end up doing it, right? And nope, your gut was ultimately right. Yep. And so that's kind of go with your gut. If you've got a gut instinct that, the job isn't right for you, and it may not be the client. Right. You may get there and realize this is out of my skill set. There might be parts and pieces you can do, and you're like, well, I'll get other people involved. And you go down this path of taking on a large job that you're not prepared for. Right. To be quite frank, you could end up losing your company over something like that because, let's just say you're built for smaller work and you take on a $50,000 job. Man, it's hard to make it through that job if you're not ready for it.
Right. If you're not set up for something that big and you're small, it can end up burning you pretty bad.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in. And again, find your niche, stick with your niche, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for joining us today. As always, we are grateful for our listeners and your continued support. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media via Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Get more info at our website, www.thehomebuildingshow.com. And as always, remember who we are, the Home Building and Remodeling Show.